however you want to do it.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning into my show, William Wallace for America. As you know, you can watch the video here on Facebook to start off with, YouTube next. And if you just want to listen to the podcast, I want any podcast player at William Wallace for America. Remember that last name is spelled W-A-L-L-I-S. Today, I'm here with State Representative Kenny Cox, District 23. Representative, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man.
Thank you so much for coming on today.
Glad to be here.
Well, I appreciate. I want to let everybody know. I'm going to give you some insight. We're going to talk here for a few minutes, but I'm going to give you some insight on this. Is that he has some really interesting stories that we're going to talk about after we talk about him and his legislation and stuff like that. He's got a 9/11 story. He also has a very interesting story about why he ran for office. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about you. So, what area are you from? Let's talk about District 23. Where does that go from?
It goes from south of Shreveport, a place called Frierson, and runs all the way to Clutcherville, where I understand you got some folks.
That's right. Got some family in Clutcherville, Louisiana.
Clutcherville, Louisiana. And my wife was calling it Clouderville. I said, no, baby, that's not Clouderville. It's Clutcherville.
Yeah.
And she got it right. It's an interesting job.
I like that. So you actually, how long have you been, how many terms is this for you?
This is my 10th term, and this is my third term.
Third term, 10th year, yeah.
10th year, and I got 2 more years left, and I'll have termed out.
And then so after that, you're gonna.
I really don't call an end to anything.
Exactly right.
You know, because you pray about stuff, and God leads the way, but. You know, I'm saying I think I'm about out, and I haven't had a vacation in 10 years.
Well, at this point, I usually ask people about their what their background was before state rep, but I want to bring that up one of the last questions because that kind of leads into your 9/11 story.
Right.
That I want people to tell us about or tell people about. So talk to me about one of the other question that we'll lead off with. What made you run for office? You have a unique story.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I get lucky. I get a little pre-interview sometimes, and so it makes me ask the questions. But what made you run for office?
Well, it's very interesting. I went in, I came in, I finally retired. I came back to Louisiana because my father-in-law had dementia, and he was getting pretty bad. They was gonna make a decision about putting him in a nursing. So they did. They put him in a nursing home because his wife couldn't handle it. He fixed everything all the time, so it was really rough. And so we came back to Louisiana, passed on a big job, making a lot of money, but I'm from Louisiana, and I got a chance to see my mom, and a lot of things that transferred. Came home to take care of our elderly family members, and in the process, I went to the hospital, and not to the hospital, to the
nursing home.
The pharmacist.
Oh, the pharmacy. Okay.
Yeah, I went to the pharmacy, and I was in there, and I was listening to an elderly lady. She was an elderly black lady, and she had 2 little kids. And I didn't know. It seems kind of strange, but anyway, long story short is, the pharmacist asked her, well, I don't remember her name, but let's just say Miss Ethel. Miss Ethel, how many pills do you want? Do you want to fill your prescription? She said, no. Can I get 10? And that's something like that. And I was kind of struck by that because in the military, they give you what you need to fight,
right.
Go and do what you got to do. And so I said, well, man, it shouldn't be like this. So I listened for a while, and she scourged around a little bit, and the little kids, she had them in tow. And so they finally left. And so I asked the man, I said, hey, what does 10 pill mean? I mean, he said something, well, I can't tell you about because of HIPAA. He says, but I can tell you this. This lady that left out of here is choosing between food and medicine. I said, well, she's gonna die. He said, yeah, he said she's pretty much trading her life for her kids, for her grandkids.
Trading her life for her grandkids.
And that struck me, man. I mean, you know, I've been fighting, going everywhere, all over the world, doing wild stuff and jumping and crazy stuff, and it just struck me, man. And I told my brother, who is the pastor, and now he's the mayor of Coshada, where I grew up in Red River Parish. And I never did tell people where I represent. I represent Red River Parish, DeSoto Parish, part of each one of those, and most of Natchitoches Parish. And it's kind of where I grew up, where I lived, and where I went to college at.
Yeah.
So Northwestern as well. So anyway,
you went to Northwestern.
I went to Northwestern. Yeah, Northwestern State
That's
University.
Joe Sampate territory.
That was Mr. Sampate. I saw Mr. Sampate later on when he was in his downward stage, but he still had a loud voice.
Yeah.
But
he ran for
the position, and I heard he was going to run that year, but he just couldn't get it together. It was beyond. I think he had met beyond his time, because anywhere he go, he put, I think.
I love Natchitoches.
I love Natchitoches. Yeah, all over the country, all over the. Everywhere he went, he'd stick a. And so anyway, I did know him. But anyway, I talked to my brother. My brother said, "Hey, man, if you really want to make a change, run for state representative." I said, "Man, I hate politicians. I don't hate them, but I just don't. I don't like some of the decisions they made when I was in the military. But we don't have a problem. I never had a problem with doing my job." And so he said, "But that's how you do it." So I thought about it, prayed about it, told my wife. She was kind of got excited about it. I'm like, yeah. And so, you know, an election came up, and I ran.
And you got it, of course.
Well, I won. I think I ran twice. The first time I just was wanting to see what it was about, but it wasn't. The district hadn't changed. District changed, but anyway, and then the second district, the margins were very small, and 54%. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I didn't get the memo saying I couldn't win.
Right.
And so we ran. I developed a military strategy of how to do the plan. Carve out the inside, drive them to the end, and attack them in the middle. And that's what I did.
And here you are.
And here I am.
And 10 years later.
10 years later.
Now, do you feel like what started you to run was that lady with her kids?
Yeah.
Now, do you feel like in this 10 years that you've made a big difference
I think
for Louisiana?
I think so. It didn't happen like I thought it should have. I thought it would be relatively sooner, but affordable health care came in, and she would have fallen into that, and the children would have been able to be taken care of a little better for health care is concerned. And so, of course, initially under the general administration, he didn't, he held us back from taking affordable health care. So, it had its pros and advantages. I think $9 billion it cost us.
Wow.
So anyway, but then I got a chance to see people, actually going to the doctors and actually getting an opportunity to get better help, because the condition we're in is because we don't get good health care. Because I grew up under,
military health care, yeah.
Well, I didn't grow up under that. I grew up on the welfare.
Oh, wow.
My mom had to sign us up for welfare, but she refused to quit work. So they punished her for working. So she got like $1.87 every month. But we got a chance to have health care, and they got a few food stamps. But she worked, she continued to work. She just told me, she said, I need health care for you, because I was real sickly.
Right.
People find it hard to believe, but I was real sickly as a kid. And so anyway, I was thinking about that. I think about kids and the struggle that parents have to go through. My mom was a single parent, and the things she had to go through for us. And you don't realize it as a kid. You just realize you don't have as much as everybody else.
Do you think you made a connection when you saw the old lady
it
and
was
with the two kids,
well,
and
because
what your mom might have gone through?
Well, but my mom had MUD, which was was her grandmother, my great grandmother, great whatever. But she was old when I met her. But she had a PhD in whooping too.
A PhD in whooping.
Oh Lord, she could whoop me and make
wood
you cry.
spoon, spatula,
stick, whatever. But she taught consequences.
Yeah,
there's a consequence. But anyway, I immediately thought of her, and there was a whole lot more of us. It was 8 of us all together in the end, and I just saw her doing the same thing, and it struck me, man, very deep. And so I said, well, I think I can do something. So
besides Medicare, now you said with the Affordable Health Care Act, you feel like you didn't have to do too much. Some of the problems got solved, but have you?
Well, we didn't have health care here.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it didn't come in until John Bell Edwards, who was in the Senate. Who was in the House of Representatives. He sat behind me, and when the election was, when I heard him a few times, I told him, I said, you know what? You're the only guy I'd vote for in the state, because you can handle yourself. You're a military guy. You got some sense. I'd vote for you, and you should run. And this was years before, and he was like, man, Kenny, because he came and got me to run.
Right.
Yeah, so it was pretty interesting. He came and, once he found out that I was running, they came and told us how I was going to run my program. And my brother jumped up and said, y'all can go back home. So anyway, it worked out, and he played a great role in, whether I should run or not, because it went through a little.
Yeah.
I went to different places, and they were telling me nobody wants to. So I supported myself. But anyway, it worked out in the end, and John them brought in, and I think they did an ad for me. That was it. That's all I wanted.
So what have you been working on other than that?
Well,
or we could talk about this legislative session too. So because you're very passionate about why you ran and helping people in the state. So it's like, while part of me wants to kind of get things that you've worked on up to now, I'm really interested also in this session because...
Well, this session, I really, I did a bill for I got a marshal, and that was in Natchitoches, and something was not happening right, and he wasn't getting paid right, and so I had to put him on a system. It took me 3 years to do this, and every year the bill has passed, and the governor, this is the third year, 2 years the bill has passed, and so I was trying to get his stuff straight.
So the governor hasn't signed it yet?
The governor signed it twice.
Okay.
But it was some things in there that wasn't what he needed, so we had to go through and redo it. It can get complicated in some of the things. I went for there's a, what you call it, where you go to the court system and you have to go before them.
Litigation.
Yeah, well, but I was talking to the Supreme Court justice, and I didn't know it. I thought I was talking to the clerk. I was handling him up too. Man. He was a brand new guy. And afterwards, I was, I didn't realize. I was like, man, he's apologized. That guy handled him pretty rough. I was upset because, shouldn't have had to do that. And then I wasn't supposed to do a bill, and it got kind of screwed up. That's why I ended up doing that. And I've done other legislation, man, from all different aspects, and it would take a long time to go through. But most of them have dealing with trying to help people. And I'm on the healthcare committee and Commerce and Labor, and I've been there. And I'm the chairman of Veterans Affairs. Speaker told me, well, you're the chairman of Veterans Affairs. I was like, you didn't ask me. He said, ain't nobody else better. And I was like, yeah, maybe, but because I haven't really chose to be in any really leadership position. I really wanted to be somebody who would be an advisor and help and stuff like that.
Well, the Veterans Affairs, that background that we're going to talk about here is going to be important when we talk about your 9/11 story here in just a minute. But so what are you working on right now?
Well, I told you I worked on that. I just had a bill that in Natchitoches, they wanted to be able to vote on whether they would be able to use the slot machine. And when they had them at one time, and I think they voted them out, I think the gaming people got real upset about it. The bill came up, and it got beat by one vote in the committee. And so that stuff like that happened, and I think I have another bill that I will probably not bring, and it was to help people who were working in jobs and caught the virus, and they couldn't draw unemployment, and because they could draw unemployment, but they couldn't get they had to use their own time for.
So their vacation time.
Yeah, all their vacation times, right? And they wasn't being reimbursed, and we were going to get all that stuff. But then the state straightened it up for their folks, and it did work. So I held the bill so that everybody would make sure that stays that way.
Right.
And sometimes you do that. You put a bill in place, you don't run it, but you hold it saying, okay, if you don't do it, I'm gonna run it, and everybody's gonna, sign off on it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, like I like to point out with a lot of legislators too, is that sometimes not running the bill is as important as running it, because the conversation needs to be had.
Right.
Now, sometimes, when you run the bill and you don't get it, or when you don't run the bill, that conversation that you have helps solve some problems without having to pass a new law.
Well, that's true. And you can get policies and procedures changed. I know that because I was in the military, and I did a lot of policies and procedure change because I became the change. I showed them it could be done, and it's done a lot of things. So the same concept took place here. If you, for example, education, I did an education, and we just changed some rules that allowed programs to match up. Sometimes you had a Jump Start program, and then you had the continuing education while you're in school, where you can go to take technical school or college, but the way it was set up, that once you did one, it eliminated you from the other, when it wasn't designed to do that.
Right.
Because my seatmate and I, Gene Reynolds, and I talked about it. He brought the bill, and what it does, so what I did was have them change. It was just a policy change they needed to make. They made the policy change.
Oh, cleanup bill.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that when you do a study, studies can do some things too, but when you do a study, I didn't know that you could go in and take over. I went to see it happen because I'd never seen one. And then the guy introduced me and asked me what I thought, and then I started telling him what the bill's supposed to do. And then one of the governor's people who came to put a hold on it, hold me back.
Yeah.
Because she didn't really know what I was going to do. And so I told them what I was trying to line things up. We line the programs up. It helps kids with TOPS Tech. It also allowed kids to get college they can get degrees before they get into school. I actually got a chance to see that with some girls from Mansfield.
And what's interesting is that the top, like you made a point that it shouldn't be one or the other, because there's some people that might start the TOPS program for college
and may decide that they're going to switch. But the thing is TOPS needs to be changed. The scores in TOPS is like you got to score 17, but really the people we need are people with a 15.
Okay.
A 15 technical score where they can then go to tech school, and we pay for them to go to school and create welders, electricians, and plumbers. For some reason, people say, well, are you dumbing down the test? No, I'm not. I'm trying to get the people that you fill in the prison systems and stuff with, because they cannot get they can't get the other things.
So maybe if you get this score on your ACT, you qualify for TOPS, for one track. But if you score a little lower, you qualify for it on another track.
You could.
And so that way you keep. So
you got the idea already. Yeah. it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes, you keep the incentive for people who want more, but you have it available for people who want,
Yeah, you got welders, electricians, plumbers, bricklayers, all those people. Guess what?
Right.
We don't have those people, man. It just
We need
you
those
can't
people.
hardly find people to do good work. You got companies that come in and they hire people from other countries to do that, and I won't get into that either.
Which is hurting hurting
hurt
the workforce in our community.
Right.
Whereas if we had more, I get excited about this. So I'm going to tell you
Well,
that.
I'm exactly.
I'm going to tell you, Kenny, because I love the idea of the trade schools.
Well, they don't
because
call them trade schools anymore. They got
right.
me straight.
Yeah.
You're dating yourself because I told them about it. He said, "No, just call it technical school." And
Well,
so,
yeah,
so that it's a university type situation.
Yeah. And if we really found a way to focus on those technical schools, we could not only create a better workforce, not only for the people that are living here, but we can create a workforce that attracts other businesses to come here because they'll see that we have trained people to do
Absolutely.
these jobs.
And guess what?
What?
I was on a plane with two senators, or a senator and a rep. One was from Arkansas, the other one from California. And we were just talking, and I was flying back, and I told him I was getting ready to retire and stuff, and he was like, and I was like, what do y'all think is the worst, the shortage we have? And this was, I guess, 15 years ago.
Right.
And they said, we don't have skilled workforce. Because in the military, we got a skilled workforce. I mean,
Absolutely. They train you.
We train you, we roll, and,
Right.
and when we get ready to do something, everybody's got a role to play in it, and then we get out and fight to the end and till we fix bayonet and attack.
Exactly. Right. Cut it from the inside, push it back.
That's right. So the bottom line is that I came in, and I made some changes in the technical aspects of training, but for some reason, man, the people, they fought it. And why you fight that when there's not anybody to make the proper changes so that kid that scores a 15,
right,
he can now go to technical school. He can't afford to pay for it because he comes from a poor family.
Yeah.
I mean, and people don't understand that, but Louisiana is about 50% or more,
right,
very poor. And then there's a group in the middle there that this pandemic has drifted down.
Right.
So,
and when you look at how much, and I know we were originally going to talk about more legislation, but this is the stuff that gets me excited.
Well, this was the legislation I did bring, and they killed it about 4 to 5 different times. Killed it. It made it out of committee,
right,
came to the floor, and the floor just killed it until I just said, okay, man. And so this year we have some technical school stuff.
And what I get is that, if we have something like that, and this is a low percentage, but there are a lot of kids that they're pushed to get that higher score, and they go to regular university.
We have had some of those,
and they don't make it out of their first year. All that money gets lost. Where if we emphasized the technical schools as much and offered incentives for that too through the system, we would be able to have a more skilled workforce and we wouldn't lose that money to kids.
Well, and that was you can talk about all the other things that I've done. That has been the queen bee of the whole thing, is that I believe that if you want to make your state grow, you want to develop a nation, you got to have people who can do work.
Right.
You got to have skilled workforce.
Not everybody can be a doctor.
No.
Not everybody can be a lawyer. Not everybody be a CPA.
No.
We need some skilled.
We need people that can repair engines. You used to could find a guy that could, shade tree mechanic. Now they shade tree. They're all gone.
Right.
And very few people can work on these pieces of equipment. So this would have been a great plan, and it still is. And I think that as we come along, there will be changes, and people will understand that we're a state that gets broken a lot by hurricanes and storms and stuff like this. If you have that workforce there, then you can come along and fix this quicker.
Yeah.
And plus you have, I told them, I said, listen, if you got somebody that's pulling electrical wire in the summer or in the winter, or welding, or laying bricks when they come home, you know, they might drink a beer if they drink, or if not, they pet the dog.
Yeah.
And they see the kids, because, you know, and then they go to bed and they're ready for the next day. They're not out looking to steal my stuff
Right.
or steal your stuff.
That's a great way to put it.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'm keep it basic.
Yeah.
And I try to keep it real basic. I don't try to tell these guys that, you know, I got a whole new group here now. And so I haven't, you know, they don't know that I'm supposed to be somebody special. I just, you know,
You care about people.
I do, and we, and you know, in my little personal life, I mean, you know, I bought houses, I fix them, and I rent them to people that nobody else wants to rent to.
Yeah.
And they halfway don't never pay me, and it's, you know, but it's okay, because I remember the struggle of my mom, so it's a way of giving back. But when I came back, veterans who have been through some things, fixing things is a way to not become upset about things.
Well, before I ask you a veteran question, which I'm going to ask the 9/11 story, because I was really impressed by that. Before I ask that, I want to ask, what is the most important fiscal legislation or the most fiscal thing that we need to come out of this session right now? Because I like to ask that fiscal question since this is a fiscal session.
Well, I think what needs to come out, and I'll go back to the technical, we got one bill that's coming out that's going to allow people who can retrain, they can use technical dollars to retrain. That's going to be good. And the Speaker and the President of the House, and we're all in on this one, I think. But they didn't lower the score for, and I don't think that'll be a score. And it would be great if they would have done that for technical school for kids coming out of high school, because if you want to reduce prison rates,
Right.
you want to make people get healthier, you want to all these things, because they have health care.
Right.
All these people are now. You know, there's going to be those people that's going to be sick, and those, but this paints a good picture. But you know, you have lobbyists and you have different groups of folks. But when I know that when
the rubber hits the road. Yeah.
I mean, when you heat a battle, man, I ain't hear nobody say nothing but, Lord Jesus, help me, that we can make it through this. But you know, politics is a big different animal, and it.
So do you think that with all this COVID money coming in,
Yeah.
that there's room to be able to provide something for without growing government?
I don't think this grows government at all. I think what with the technical aspect of it, technical school, it's gonna create. We need people who lost jobs. Now they can refocus and come back, and now you don't have that. I haven't seen the bill in a while.
Maybe so. You're saying, oh yes, if this is right, some of that one-time money to put into a one-time fund to help retrain some people that have lost their jobs during COVID, but now they might have an opportunity to train for something else that is needed to make our workforce more skilled in Louisiana.
Well, that's
to help us in other ways.
And that is that's exactly what it is. It's developing people who retool themselves to come out and coming to a technical field that is needed. And you know, there's all different kinds, you know, but everybody can't be a computer programmer and all of those things.
Right.
But we do need a workforce development aspect of this, and so that is, to me, you know, I could tell you about all the different bills I passed, but the ones that you don't really pass, but you get pieces of it done.
Yeah.
You learn. Sometimes I wrote the. I tell you, I wrote the school security bill.
Okay.
But my name is not on the bill. I'm a co-author down the road, you know.
Yeah.
But I passed it. I wrote it. I passed it. I was so convicted. I went home, man, about this, and I was like, man, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't rest. So I sat down one night, one evening, and I wrote this bill. I mean, usually these guys in here, you come up with an idea, they write it, but I wrote it.
Yeah.
And so once I wrote the bill, then the general administration said, "Oh man, that's too good a bill." So they put out a bill, and I told them, "Listen, man." I went and talked to the guy that he had running, and I said, "Look, if you get rid of your bill, I'll give you mine." He said, "Man, why would you do that?" I said, "Because it's too important." See, you can't write something. You got to know what you're talking about, writing
Right.
something so that the people can use it to support
So
themselves.
you were willing to give up credit
Yeah,
just to have a better bill to help people in our state because you weren't worried about having credit.
No, it was about kids, man.
Yeah.
And so I wrote it, and I convinced him, and I told him, "You just ride, and I'll carry the bill." And we sat at the table together, and he started out, and then I said, "And I take over," because he was he became the principal. But I told him he had to trash his bill though. The only way I'll do this is you have to trash this, because his would have passed,
Yeah.
because it was, we weren't under the same administration,
Right.
And so anyway, and he and the guy and I became pretty good friends, and the bill passed, and it went well, and he told me, I'm going to become a senator, man. I said, "Yeah, this bill will do it for you." And he's a senator now, and we're friends, and he's a good guy.
And that is
Cooperation.
okay.
What do you mean?
Oh, the name.
The name of the guy?
Yeah. Can you tell me?
I'll leave that.
Yeah, we don't do names. That's right.
Yeah, we try not to. So, but anyway, but that was a key thing, because it was something that needed to be fixed,
Yeah.
and nobody know how to do that like I could.
Yeah.
And so, and it flowed in my head, and I wrote it down. And so, he and I talk all the time. He's a good guy.
Wow.
He's a great guy, and people don't understand. You don't have to be from the same party, but you should be. I mean, Louisiana is kind of different. We're pro-life,
Yeah.
Democrats and Republicans, or
Right.
whatever you want. So it
I mean, I've noticed there's a little fighting sometimes, a little disagreements.
Fighting, yeah,
but for the
usually-
most part, everybody gets along. I mean, I've seen you all in committees having differences.
Yeah.
I've seen you vote in different ways on the floor.
Yeah.
But I've seen you walk out shaking hands and being friends, and I've seen you negotiating on other bills together to help other people in other ways.
Yeah. And that's what that's what it should be about. And sometimes there's this big divide, and usually the biggest divide, is, I believe, comes from outside forces.
Yeah.
Because, the biggest thing, like we had that insurance bill today.
Yeah.
Louisiana has some of the highest priced insurance, and then, the people in Lake Charles, they're still trying to recover.
Yeah.
They just it's flooding down there now.
Yeah.
How you gonna tell the difference from what happened in the flood
Right.
and what?
Because they're still cleaning up the mess from the hurricane last year.
So if yours ain't fixed, then so anyway.
But I was watching a debate. There's quite a bit of debate on that.
It was quite a bit of debate, and the guys, one of the guys came up and stated, this information here is true. And so my thing is when our people suffer, then it is our job to do something. It is our job, and our insurance stuff is messed up.
Yeah.
I mean, we pay some of the highest insurance, maybe rightly so, I don't know. I mean, but when I pay my insurance, man, you better pay me my insurance.
You better fix my house when
Yeah,
it's ready.
man, I don't care if you don't fix my house. Give me the money that I can buy another one and get it fixed. And that's the way I think. And most people in there think that way. But sometimes they're held back because of, sometimes political issues. And I told them, nothing you can tell me. I mean, I'll vote with you if it ain't going to.
So a lot of your background comes from your military background. A lot of your thinking.
Most of it comes from my military background.
So usually in the beginning, I usually ask people about their background, what they're from, and you know, and we're going to go into that. We're getting close to that 9/11 story, but you, how many years did you spend in what branch of the military?
I spent 25 and a half years in the United States Army. I retired out of Washington, D.C. I was in the Pentagon, and I wrote classified budget for the Army. And when I say
you wrote classified budget for the Army.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. We did a lot of classified stuff.
Did you do that for the?
Yeah, I did that while I was there, and you know, we did a lot of different things. We made equipment. We did a lot of things, and that's about all I can say about it.
So you worked up the ranks.
Well, when I first came in the military, I actually went. You know, I tell you what, I grew up in a family of 8, and I'm the oldest, and my mother was not married, and she told me one day, and it didn't make sense. I said, well, why don't you marry? Yeah, I'm the oldest. She made me step outside the house, and she said, you see this house here? You see the 5 acres of land we have here? She said, that's Mary Cox's land. That's Mary Cox's house. She says, the one thing that I have not been good at is finding somebody who really loved me. So I asked God to give me somebody who loved me. He gave me y'all. And y'all love me. And if I marry one of these guys, the law says that they get half of it in a divorce case. She said, because I don't seem to be able to keep these guys.
Yeah. And this is really interesting.
Well, it is interesting,
yeah.
Because she said this to me, and you know, and then I said, and I'm listening, and she said, "What can you live on a half a house?" She said, and I didn't know how she knew any of this stuff. She said, and he can now force me to sell my property and give him half of it, and we're in the streets. Where are you then, son? Where are you, son? I said, Mama, I'll never ask you. It bothers me now. It sends chills on my. I'll never ask you again about any of the decisions you make.
Yeah.
And so, my mother was poor. My mother grew up, and it was a rough life. Man.
So soon after that is when you joined the Army?
Well, I went in. I started playing sports. And I played football, and I was pretty good at it. So I went to Northwestern, and I played there for a while with guys like Joe Delaney and Sidney Thornton and one of the quarterbacks. He played for the Saints, Landry. I think that was his name. But anyway, but I went in. I got I went to school because you don't get a lot of money out of these scholarships.
Right.
So I boxed. I went in and do a writing contest in there. And they gave me a book with all the grants and stuff, which I had never heard of in high school. My high school professor told me they were hiring, not professor, but she was a counselor, told me they was hiring us at the sawmill. And because I graduated third in my class, I was, and I was a pretty good, I thought I was really good athlete.
So you decided military instead was the way to go.
Well, when I got in college, I decided that I needed somebody to pay for the books and all that other stuff. Because, and so the ROTC guys, I had a work study, and I work up there, and I'd buff the floors and all, and they'd come around and scarf them up. And I was kind of upset about it, and then they got me to join the ROTC program, and I joined, and there was a scholarship, and I applied for it, and the guy who they gave it to, they told me I was behind him. I knew, but anyway, it wasn't true. But anyway, he couldn't take it, and so I took the scholarship. Matter of fact, I was working at the sawmill when they came and found me.
So did you go into the officer candidate school?
Yeah, I went in the ROTC.
So you're an officer in the military.
I was a colonel.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
So you worked your way up through the ranks. What was your job in the military?
Well, I started out working in nuclear programs. Man, I worked in nuclear. I had a nuclear weapon, and we would pull this thing around and shoot it. And I started doing this. You have this pattern where you can draw the patterns, and you show the fallout. And I told my commander one day, if we shoot this thing, we can't outrun the fallout. He goes, have you told us troops? I said, no, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I said, I don't believe, and if the direction of the wind changed, we're dead. I mean, we don't die all at once, but and so he was really pissed off at me about that.
So you worked your way up to the ranks and then
Right.
finally ended up at the Pentagon writing military budgets for how many U.S. presidents?
2. Bush and Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
But before that, though, I worked for, I was advisor. I became an expert in air defense weapon systems, and I didn't think I was, but apparently I was the advisor to the King of Saudi Arabia, and I was one of the advisors, and I would advise him on the purchase and sale of military weapon systems, and I'd tell him you couldn't buy our Stinger.
Yeah.
But here's another weapon system here, and then I'd keep them from cheating them too. I don't know if I should have, but the French had a good weapon system, and they got upset with me because I told him that
Yeah.
you got a toolbox, but ain't no tools in it. But you're paying the same price for it. The guy goes in the bathroom, and we're using the bathroom, and he goes, why you telling him that? I said, let me tell you something, man. If you don't want to get your neck broken, you go back in there and you make the best deal you can. I said, but every time you try to screw them, I've been paid by the United States Army to make sure that they're taken care of. And I'm going to do my job. And I'll do you in here if you want me to. I'll knock you out, man. I said, and don't you ever confront me like that again.
Wow.
I said, we're the reason that you ain't. I mean, you would be a German now. Right. And he got real pissed, and I was like, and? So
this is some real good information. I like this. Yeah.
Well, but that's just how I was, and I didn't want nobody to screw over anybody that I've been assigned to. If I sign to you, I'm going to protect you, and
So then so years later, you end up at the Pentagon.
Yeah, I end up that's my next assignment. Coming back from there, I did a lot of assignments before that, going up the ladder. But they sent me a thing saying you have been assigned to the Pentagon. But I got assigned because I picked. The officers have to pick a secondary MOS.
Right.
Military training occupation, military skill, occupational skill. And I think they still call it that. But so I took comptroller because I figured we weren't going to need anybody to kill anybody when they get out. And we're going to need nobody with no top secrets, with a knick-knack, all of that stuff. So as a captain, I chose comptroller, and I went to school, and I took it, and it was good. And then I got a chance to do it a couple times. But they called me there to do that.
At the Pentagon?
At the Pentagon.
So you were at the Pentagon on the day of 9/11?
Yeah, I was. It was really weird how it happened. Because that day was really weird. Because it was so clear and everything. Some people didn't make it to work. I mean, it was, and so I'm in the office, and it took, it took about 4 combinations for me to go to work. 4 combinations. I was like, man, I told him, I said, y'all need to send me back. I'm never going to remember all these names.
So you had to have 4 different combinations just to get in
Just
your office.
just to get in my office and into my desk to go to work. It was just that classified. I mean, I briefed the Senate Arm Committee, and they'd had to come over. I forget what his name was, but anyway, he used to always be upset because I'd take all his pens and pencils and
Right.
everything. They checking to see if we're all right. I'll
The speaker said we can't leave until we lock up.
okay.
Are you almost done?
Yeah, we're gonna wrap up here in just a few minutes, everybody, on this. So we'll be
Okay, I'm sorry, but
So- So you're you're in the Pentagon
I'm
on
in the
day
Pentagon
9/11. Sorry
today.
about the interruption, guys. We're using the break room here, and we're at the end of their day. So we're gonna let him finish this story though, real
well,
quick.
but 9/11, the plane was, my seat. We have different skill sets there, but anyway, the Special Forces guy tells me that his wife said that the plane had hit. So we went in. I said, let's go in and turn on the brake room.
It's someplace else. It hadn't hit the Pentagon yet.
No, it hadn't hit. It had hit in the Twin Cities. I mean, in New York City, and it hit one of the Twin Towers, excuse me. And it hit one. And so I was sitting there, and I saw it hit the other tower. And then my boss came in, the big boss of all of us, came in and said, what are y'all looking at, Kenny? And I was like, hey, sir, we're under attack. We're at war. In my opinion, this is a war act. And he goes, you're always outside the box. Now, about 3 months earlier, we left out of the Pentagon, and I turned around and looked at it, and I said, sir, why are these planes flying over the building? This is the biggest, strongest weapon system. You may not be considered a system, but I consider it a system because we fight wars all over the world from here. And anyway, he was like, Kenny, you're always outside the box, guy.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, well. Anyway, so we go off to this place where we're doing some real secret stuff. So anyway, we come back, and so here I am, and he's in, and he's telling me, and I said, look, sir, I'm from Louisiana. You put me in the eye one time, I might call it an accident, but you poke me in the eye again, it's a fight. And I said, and you see one plane, I see 2, because I'm an air defender. Watch. They played it over, and I said, see, they're hitting the next plane. And all at once then, we were talking, and he was saying something. That plane hit and smoke and fire stuff started shooting everywhere. And
But it hit the Pentagon.
it hit the Pentagon, and it hit.
And you were in there.
I was inside and in my office there, and it hit where I used to be, and it hit one of those metal posts. See, if it had hit on the other side of the Pentagon, it'd have burned it down because it hadn't been renovated. It was starting a cyclic renovation.
Right.
But anyway, it hit a metal post. It blew it up into pieces. Everybody was, he was saying, get out. I said, let's get out. My guys were saying, we got to go put up the classified equipment. I said, man, if somebody want that stuff, they can have it. We getting out of here. So we left, and just was pandemonium, man. Some people who died because they didn't know how to get in and out. I walked around the building just like I did here and see all the different spots and stuff. So anyway, we had to go back. We were all coming back out, and man, I was rolling now. I mean, you could hear those chloroform shoes. They sound like little dogs running down through there. And then all at once, something said, go back. I mean, I heard something say, go back. And I believe it was the voice of God. And so as I got back in there, I got trapped. And a man walks out of the smoke. I asked God, is this how it is? And a man walks out there with a key, and they were doing construction work inside of the building. And so we opened the building. He just stepped over to it. He asked me, do you want to get in? And I said, yeah. So he just walked over, put the key in there, and opened it up. And then he turns and he just steps back into the smoke. And I thought that was pretty strange at the time, though. And so then I just started running through the because the building at the Pentagon got opening in its rings.
Right.
I was in the ring. I think it was in the C ring, and some people say it wasn't a plane, but I was standing on the. I saw the wheel burning, and just chaff everywhere. It was like chaff. The plane broke up into just little small pieces because it was a bomb. It was like a bomb. But anyway, we went around there. People were hanging out, so I told everybody to put our arms together and have people jump out, and they would jump on us, and you could hear our bodies pop. And so then they all got those out and took them to the center court, and then I took a ladder and put on a dumpster, and there were some people in third floor up there, and I was trying to, we a second or third floor, I can't remember right off the top of my head. But anyway, I put the ladder up there. The ladder was too short, and some say, well, you put it on you. And so I sent my guy up there, and then when they started to come down, they all got on the ladder at the same time. They were just coming out. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
They were coming out, and they began to crush me. And I had just had my knee worked on, and I could feel that they're driving that ladder down into my shoulders.
Right.
And stuff. So yeah, so that I've had to have a shoulder replacement, and the other one has to be replaced too. But I've held on as long as I can. But and then we went through there. The building was on fire, man. It was exploding. Water was coming out. And just ironically, I'd had a dream about something like it. Didn't make sense because I had on first Class A uniform when I pulled up out of
Right.
But making a long story short, we're gonna be here. Give me about 5 more minutes, and we then start coming out, and it then I was walking across. We came out. There's more to it than that, but I was walking across the street, and somebody said to me, "Hey, can you say something about what's going in there?" And something struck me, man. I just looked at him and I said, "You see that building over there? Whoever did this to us, may God have mercy on them and their families, because we're coming to get them." And we went and got them. It took years to get bin Laden, but we got a lot of other folks. We got into wars that we hadn't got out of yet. But it was a lot to it. It was more to it than that, but it was just.
And you wrote a book about this, didn't you?
I wrote a book, yeah.
So where can somebody get the book?
You can get it off of Amazon,
Okay.
and it's the guy named the book "Make 'Em Remember Your Name," and we wrote the book together. And I was like, "Well, why would you?" He said, "You told me, your mama told me before you got ready to leave, when you got ready to go to college, she said, just make 'em remember your name." And I was like, and I thought about that. How do you do that? And she told me, she said, just like you played football, you played like there was no tomorrow. I said, "Yeah, but you didn't come to but one game." She said, "Yeah." I said, "If you'd come to more games, I probably would have done it." She said, "Yeah, you had 200-something yards rushing and 25-something tackles, and you broke some people up. I was afraid of you for you at first. Then I become afraid for them. I couldn't take it." And I understood.
Well, this is an amazing story. I got to tell you, I'm not only happy that we got a chance to sit down and talk about this, but I'm happy that I got a chance to hear the whole story, and I really hope that other people, share this video and share this interview. And again, it's gonna be on a podcast, and I hope more people do. But where can somebody get your book?
Well, you can get it on Amazon, and it's called "Make 'Em Remember Your Name," the 9/11 account, 9/11 story
By Kenny Cox.
by Kenny Cox, and it's an interesting read because what it does is allow me to take that story, that pressure off of me,
Yeah.
and I let it into this book, and it's been good.
I love it.
But I haven't had any time to to do anything with, to go out and
Market it.
like you're
Well,
supposed to.
hopefully after this,
Oh, it might be.
I'll put it in the link a little. I'll put the link to the book in there, in this video so people can check it out. But State Representative Kenny Cox, I got to tell you something. I've been chasing you down, and I'm so glad I got you on this show.
Well, you said
Yeah.
something that you said, "Hey, I like that cross,"
Uh-huh.
and I stopped immediately, and I knew you told me you was doing the interview. I knew I had to do something with you. But
You wore that red, white, and blue
red,
cross,
white, blue
and
cross. I don't have it.
I have the same cross, and it's amazing though how he guides us. And
Yeah, God is, and let me tell you, God is, and through Christ has been a saving grace for me.
especially when that person came out of the smoke to let you out with the key.
Well, that's not
Well-
the only time. I mean, I've been in places where I prayed and I couldn't let my soldiers know, but I was scared to death, and those people that weren't were lying.
Well, you gave a good story today, and I know it's truth, and but I think it's a story that more people need to hear. Everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the show today, and tune in some more. But in the meantime, go check out Kenny Cox a little bit. You're going to find some things if you read that book that I got to hear off camera that I think everybody should hear. Thank you very much. Y'all have a great day now.
Y'all have a blessed day. Bye.